I know what you're thinking there. You're thinking, this fella again. Look, as this fella is on. That other thing must be over. I didn't realise it was over. I was in a daze. The next thing on my playlist must have automatically come up. What was that thing I was listening to? I can't even remember now. Well, I can. You were listening to that series about that fella who died. The American fitness fanatic, motivation fella with the curly hair, who used to go on David Letterman's late night chat show in a vest and get mocked by Mr. Letterman. And he used to look upset, and we'd watch and think, I hope he's not really upset. I hope he's in on this. That isn't some horrible bullying thing that he partakes in. He died recently, and there was a podcast series about him a couple of years ago. Some people were concerned that he was maybe being controlled and not allowed out. So there was a podcast series about that, and I'll bet you that's what you were just listening to. You were so engrossed in it, the end of the episode ticked over into this. And then you go, oh, wait a minute. What's happened here? Is that over? Well, yes, it is over. He's dead. May he rest in peace and all that, but he's dead. There's not going to be any more of that. So now that I think about it, your man will probably make a follow-up program to say, oh, I found out all that stuff we said in that series was all bollocks. It's all fine. He was just dying of natural causes. And now he's dead. And now here's a commercial. Same commercial that you hear on your local radio station. It's an ad for a local toothpaste provider in your locality. Used to be the video rental shop, Extravision. And now it's a toothpaste shop. It sells all toothpaste all the time. Well, not all the time. It sells toothpaste from about 6 a.m. to 3 in the afternoon. And then after 3 in the afternoon, its liquor license kicks in. And that's when they sell a very popular form of mouthwash. Has a high alcohol rate and also has drugs in it. They're only allowed to sell that after 3 p.m. You have to drink it on the premises. You have to bring the empty bottle up to the checkout and they scan that and you pay for it there. You're not allowed to bring it out through the checkouts. You have to drink it in the aisles. Luckily, they sell little picnic tables and chairs. So you can sit on one of them in the aisles. Now, if you sit for too long, you have to buy the chair. That's the rule. Because next time our liquor license comes up for renewal, it'll be called up to the court. And the judge will say, this fella's liquor license is up for review. Local policeman, Garda. Can you tell us, has there been any problems with this premises and its clientele recently? And they'll have to be honest. Because the Gardaí, as we call them here, they're expected to be honest. They're not allowed to be like the rest of us. They're expected to tell the truth. So the guard will stand up and say, hello, Judge. And then he'll take out his notebook out of his shirt pocket, a regulation standard issue notepad, and he takes it out. And he says, hold on a minute, I'll find my notes here. Well, I see I have a note here that says 2:55 p.m, 7th of November, went into that shop and everything was fine. So it looks like it's all fine, Judge. And the judge will say, that's fine. Why are you here? And the Gardaí will say, I don't know. I thought I was supposed to come here. Is that not how it works? I'm the policing expert for this community. And you're issuing a renewal license for this premises to sell mouthwash with cocaine in it. Well, there's no cocaine in it. Sorry, I misspoke there. There's no cocaine in it. There's just standard drugs. Standard issue drugs that the government puts in all the tap water and we're allowed to put in the mouthwash. We get the tap water from the tap and we have a way of concentrating the tap water by dehydrating it. And that's how we get the drugs. That's how we get the drugs. And the judge will say, excuse me, Garda, when you say that's how we get the drugs, are you saying that's how you, the Gardaí, get the drugs? Or are you saying that's how the fella who runs this establishment gets the drugs? And the Garda will say, you should probably explain to the foreigners why you're saying Gardaí sometimes and Garda other times. And the judge will say, I'm sure they're perfectly capable of understanding that Gardaí is plural of Garda. And the Garda will say, I suppose so. I'm never sure. Is the singular guard or Garda? And the judge will say, well, I'm not sure about that myself. I think maybe if you're talking to a guard, you say Garda. If you're talking about a guard, you say, I was talking to the guard. And the guard will say, well, that implies that there's only one of us, the guard. That's ridiculous. And the judge will say, his village is here to have less than one guard nowadays. They're apparently not aware of how bad it's got. There's been a huge reduction in numbers, nearly as bad as the reduction in numbers in the priesthood. There are whole towns now where the church is having to close down or bring in renter priests from other religions. They say, hello, can you do some temping here? We need someone to say mass here. And they'll say, certainly, but I'm from another religion that has a different type of service, so we don't do mass. And of course they'll say, that's fine, you don't have to do mass, you just have to say mass. That's what it's called. It's called saying mass. So you just come in here and you say mass, 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 mass. And it'll be like a chant. It'll be going back to the old days of the church. In the 700s and 800s, they used to have these monasteries, and their whole deal was that they learned about chanting. You go, oh, because they realised that chanting was a type of mind control. You could control your mind. It would bring you on great adventures, just like smoking something that you find in the jungle with that Indian fella who gave the Beatles all their drugs. What's he called? The Maharashagori. That fella. Is he dead? I don't know. And then they give that fella his license to say, you can sell this stuff for another year now. Here's your liquor license. Now don't be selling it before 3 p.m. Anyone who comes in before 3 p.m, you just give them toothpaste. You say, that'll do you. There's no need to be using mouthwash during the day. Wash your mouth out at the end of the day when you're finished using it. When you're finished using your mouth for the day, that's when you wash your mouth out. There's no point in washing it halfway through the day. When you're sitting on the toilet half done, you don't start washing your hands then. You wait till you're finished. And I know cramped apartments these days, you have a tiny bathroom where you can reach the sink while sitting on the toilet. That doesn't mean you wash your hands before you're done. No, you wash your hands after you're done. You don't wash your mouth with mouthwash until the end of the day when you're finished using your mouth for the day and you're ready to go. That's also part of good sleep hygiene. It's a bit like the way they say you shouldn't go to bed until you're ready to go asleep, because your brain associates the bed with sleeping. That's called good sleep hygiene. It helps you get to sleep at a set time every day. The same is true of your mouth. Your mouth isn't going to go asleep if you don't train it when you want to go asleep. You train it by using mouthwash at the end of the day. Say, I'm finished using my mouth for the day. Here's the mouthwash. It's time to start shutting down my system. My natural body clock should be getting ready to go to sleep soon. And sit down and watch some television, but we'll put a blue tint on the television, because apparently that helps. Having a blue tint on the screen apparently helps with your system. What's that thing? Your sleep cycle. The thing that goes nuts as soon as you get on a plane across the Atlantic. That cycle goes absolutely nuts. And it goes, oh, look, it's 9 o'clock in the morning and you're getting on the plane to America. And then 5 hours later you go, oh, it's 10 o'clock in the morning and I'm landing in America. And your body clock goes, what in the name of fuck? Have you adjusted the planet? Have you moved the skies around? Have you moved the solar system around or something so the sun now sets at a different time of the day? What in the name of Christ? And then you stay awake until 9 o'clock the next morning and you think, oh Christ. And then just as you're about to get up, you finally fall asleep. And then it's 5 in the evening. And then for the next week, your body is out of kilter for the next week. And then, of course, you think you can cure that by just doing a return journey where you go from America to here. But it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that at all. That makes it worse. In fact, that's where you get the jet lag, going from east to west. That's where it's worse. You get on some plane in some godforsaken hellhole airport. You get on some plane at 9 o'clock at night. Next thing you know, they're saying, it's 1 o'clock in the morning now. And then 5 minutes later, they're saying, change your watches. It's 9 o'clock in the morning now and the sun's coming up. Give us up your dinner, dessert plates and we'll be round with breakfast in a minute. And then they go, why don't you want breakfast? Are you not hungry? And you say, no.
Into your head. Into your head. Into your head. Into your head. Into your head.
You join me at a tremendously disappointing moment. I just did that thing again where I record a segment and then notice I'm not recording. Whole 14 minutes of it, all about air flight simulators and how if you're a pilot being trained in one of those, every day you're learning new ways to crash. So that when you're going off to work every day, the first thing you're thinking is, oh, I wonder what I'm going to die of today. I wonder what new way I'm going to find to crash today of the hundreds of methods that I've been trained in that contraption. You have these air stewardesses and they get on the simulator and there's no facilities for them. So the pilot will say, I'm going to take off now. You go back and look after your imaginary passengers there. And the air stewardess or air steward will go and open the door at the back of the cabin and find there's either a blank wall or just a big hole that leads out into a room that's not a plane at all. The pilot just has the front tip of the aircraft to practice on. He doesn't have the rest of the aircraft at all. It's all about the front tip and how many ways he can crash it. And that's what they're doing, those things. They program in a new problem every day that you have to learn how to deal with, and then they crash them several times a day. That pilot goes off every morning on the train going, oh, I wonder what I'm going to die of today. Of all the hundreds of ways I've learned to end a flight, what way am I going to die today? Isn't that great? No, it's not great. It's fucking depressing. They don't do a lot of just flying and having nothing's going wrong here. We'll just sit in this flight simulator for 8 hours till we arrive at our destination. I think if you did that, people will complain that you're not getting a lot of training. That's just waste of time. That's like when you go to school and the teacher says, oh, just take out your books and read. Or do your homework while I correct last night's homework. No, because those things are expensive. An airline isn't going to want to have you sitting there for hours, not dying, not having anything that's about to crash you into the ground. And then, of course, when you do crash and you manage to save some of the people on the plane, they're not going to be you. They're going to be the people in the back. And the only exception to that is if you can manage to have a failed takeoff when you're climbing steeply and then you lose acceleration or something, and it's like when you're driving a car up a hill and something goes wrong with the gears and you start slipping backwards. If the plane did that during takeoff and could slip backwards and then reverse back into the ground, for once the pilots would have a chance of being the ones who survived. Of course, if they did that, you wouldn't even get to enjoy it. They'd say, oh, you survived. All those people are dead because you reversed into the ground. So they can't win. They can't win. I don't think it's unreasonable that they should have some crashes where the pilots survive. I mean, they're human beings as well. Why should they be the first to die? Why should they be the first to die? Any other workplace, you wouldn't say, oh, hello, welcome to McDonald's. This thing that I'm cooking your breakfast on is a fire. I'm going to put my hand into it, though, because I want to make sure it's not too hot for you. I want to make sure your breakfast isn't too hot for you, so I'm going to test it. I'm going to put my finger into the fire to test it, to check that it's the right temperature. I'm going to put my finger into your coffee to check that it's not too hot. Because I know my employer has issues where they might get sued if the coffee we give you is too hot. So I'm going to check that with my finger. Ow. I'll check it again now. Ow. Just give me a minute, sir. I'll have to let it cool down a bit before I give it to you. I'll try again now. Ow. And then they'll say, did you want cream in that? And they'll say, no, thank you. Okay, I won't put the pseudo cream on my burnt finger yet then. And then they check again. Ow. And then they realise, oh, I think it's cool enough now. I'm just going ow because my fingers are already burnt and the slightly warm coffee still hurts it when I put it in. So it's fine now. Here you go, sir. Do they have flight simulators in McDonald's? They probably do, or some equivalent thereof, because they certainly have plenty of other technology. They have these things sitting out just inside the entrance. They're like giant smartphones that you stand in front of and you select the thing on your menu and then you swipe your card and it takes your money. And then it says, oh, would you like table service? And I tap, yes, please. And it says, great, take one of these locator number things and put it on your table. So I take one of the locator number things and it says, read the number of the locator number things and type it in here, and that's how we'll know where to find you. And then the fucking locator numbers now are some weird colour that I can't see. So you have to cancel and go and wait for it to check out. Maybe that's something that couldn't be fixed with a flight simulator. Probably not. For one thing, a flight simulator has no passengers. So the equivalent of a flight simulator for a fast food outlet would have no diners or customers. So the only thing they'd be training is how not to burn the coffee or burn the food or make it too hot. It wouldn't teach them anything about that thing that I do with the screen. In fact, the whole thing I do with the screen is intended to take the work off them and give it to me. Anyway, suffice to say, the air simulator segment that I did, I hadn't pressed record. And tell you, it turned out a lot better than this. I didn't even mention McDonald's in the original version. In fact, the original version, I started by talking about 1980s television impressionists who do an hour on stage in front of an audience, a sort of variety show, but it's just them doing impressions. And they'd be doing impressions of the characters from the major sitcoms of the day. But you had just watched the sitcom the night before. You'd be watching a thing called Some Mothers Do Have 'Em. It's this anarchic sitcom about this guy who gets into a lot of awkward situations and he's clumsy and he's always having a lot of physical clumsy things happening to him. And the impressionists always did impressions of him. They say, hello, here's my impression of the fella from Some Mothers Do Have 'Em. And you basically do the same job as the fella on the sitcom was doing for the past 5 years perfectly fine. Time to take his job. Oh, look, you're being the fella from the sitcom. Nobody else can do that. Well, except the fella in the actual sitcom. He does it very well. I believe his name was Michael Crawford. He was also in Phantom of the Opera, or one of those things that's phantoms and musicals and operas. There's Phantom of the Opera and opera. I'm not sure. I think it's a musical. It might be about an opera, but that doesn't mean it's an opera. Something can be about an opera and not be an opera. There was a classic Queen album for a start, A Night at the Opera. And then there was a Marx Brothers film from the 1930s or 40s. I think they had one called A Night at the Opera as well. They certainly had one called A Day at the Races, which was also the name of Queen's follow-up to A Night at the Opera. I'm sure they all came up with all that independently. But no, neither of those things are operas. They might have been about operas, and the Queen album might have had some stuff in it that seemed a bit operatic, but it wasn't what we think of as an opera. It wasn't some woman going, oh, in Italian. Now, as it happens, 10 or 12 years after A Night at the Opera, Freddie Mercury did go off and make a real opera album with an Italian woman called Montserrat Caballé. And she did a lot of, oh, and Freddie Mercury did a lot of stuff going, oh, look at me, my voice is great. And not only that, my voice is accessible. So we'd all watch that and go, oh, Freddie Mercury sounds great on that. I wonder what she's saying, what she's singing about. Oh, probably some Italian shit. Freddie Mercury came on in a suit, fully shaved, and going, Barcelona, Barcelona. It's hard to recreate it. Of course, all the opera snobs would say, he's not an opera singer, he's not doing opera. And everyone else would go, so what? What he's doing is very impressive. He's standing up with that woman from a completely different form of art to what he's known for. And he's doing an opera-y song. He's going, Barcelona, Barcelona. And she's going, Mamu, Manu, Barcelona, boo, boo, Barcelona. Boo, boo, boo. Everyone's favourite part of that song was where Freddie Mercury went Barcelona. And he did it in a very impressive voice. Whether you think it's operatic or not is irrelevant. It was cool. That's what it was. It was fucking cool. And you should be ashamed of yourself if you're an opera lover looking down on that stuff. You're no better than. Or is this fella Sid Vicious? I think he was out with the Sex Pistols, and he went up to Freddie Mercury one day and said, hello, Freddie, I hear you're bringing opera to the masses. And Freddie Mercury said something along the likes of, "Oh, I'm doing my best, Mr. Ferocious." And that's how you deal with those people. That's how you deal. You mock their names. If people make fun of you trying to do something and bring it to the masses, just make fun of their names, no matter what their name is. In fact, the more sensible their name and the less mockable their name is, the more you should mock it. You should drag them down. If they have a perfectly sensible name that has served them well, that they're very proud of, that's when you should mock their name. Take something away from them that they didn't know you could take away. If their name happens to be John, tell them, "Oh, John. Do you know what John means in America? It's toilet." I know, because they say it on Family Guy all the time. They're not even saying it as a joke. They're saying it because John is what they call it all the time. If you notice on Family Guy, whenever he says John, he's not making fun of someone called John and saying, "Oh, John, that's what I call a toilet." No, he's just calling the John, because that's what they call toilets every day as a matter of course. It's not even considered a joke. So that's what you say to someone called John over here if you want to mock them. If they're looking down on your favourite rock star's attempt to do opera in a cool way, make fun of their name. Say, "You're John, you're a toilet. Ha ha ha, you're a toilet." Now, of course, they might start to argue that, well, when they say John in America, they're referring to Jon, John. Nobody over here spells John that way. We spell it John. In fact, a lot of Irish people say Sean, and we don't spell it the way you Americans do with the SHAWUN. No, it's SEA for the N. That's what it is. SEAN with a diagonal thing over the A. That's how you spell the Irish translation of John. It's not Sean. If you're a Sean and you're in America, I'm going to assume that you've never set foot inside Ireland. Maybe your great-great-grandmother once read a book about the Titanic and said, "Oh, I think my ancestors are from Belfast where they made the Titanic. I'm very proud of my heritage. I'm proud of my Irish heritage. We made the Titanic there. We're very proud of it." And now, of course, that was in the part of Ireland. It's officially not part of Ireland at the moment. It's in Northern Ireland. So if anyone ever accuses you of being from the country that made the Titanic and they don't mean it as a compliment, you can use that as a technicality. Although then, of course, they'll say you're anti-Irish, you're against being proud of being Irish. No, I'm against being proud of building the Titanic, that stupid fucking place up in Belfast. Don't be making Titanics. It's a bad thing. That's almost as bad as making a movie about the Titanic. Making the actual Titanic itself. No. At least when they were building the Titanic, unlike your man who made the movie The Titanic in the 1990s, the people who were building the original Titanic didn't realise that they were trying to make a massive profit out of the deaths of hundreds of people. No, they didn't know the Titanic was going to crash. Wait, do you call that crashing? You crashed into some water. You don't crash a boat into some water and go, "Oh, we have to sink now, we're all done." No, you crash a boat into some water. You say, "Oh, this water is slightly different than the other billions and billions of gallons of water through which we have successfully travelled, but somehow it's going to be the death of us all." I suppose it makes sense in a way. An iceberg is basically a rock. Now, it's a nice rock because it looks a bit like a crystal. Well, it's also, a crystal can cut you. A crystal or a diamond with a sharp edge can cut the wrists off you. You don't want that. And the same is true of an iceberg, unfortunately. It's like water that's being poisoned. Poisoned not by ingredients or chemicals. It's being poisoned by making it a different temperature than it's supposed to be. Unfortunately, water, to survive in it, has to be between a particular temperature and another particular temperature. And if it goes beyond those extremes of temperature, it becomes dangerous. The same is true. It's not just the frozen water that's the problem. It's if the water gets too hot and starts boiling, that would be a problem as well. There's probably some parallel universe where the Titanic went into some area of the sea where the water was at boiling temperature. And it didn't sink, it just sort of melted. And all the people getting into the lifeboats, very hot. You had to take off their shirts, and then they all get sunburned. And of course, the sun doesn't help at all. Why would it? Why would the sun help? The sun is probably doing the opposite of helping. It's making the water even hotter. In fact, there's a good chance If you're in a parallel universe where the water gets so hot that it boils, there's a good chance the sun is causing that, or at least contributing to that. Maybe there's more than one sun. Maybe all of the stars are so close in this parallel universe that they continuously boil the water. I don't know. But then what about the moon? The moon is supposed to control the seas. The moon is a lot closer, so the moon should have far more influence over the seas than the sun does. Or is the moon just there to slosh the water around every 6 hours? Oh, that's not all the moon does. It just pushes the water a bit over that way for 6 hours, then back over the other way for 6 hours. That's not control at all. If you think that's control, no, that's not helping anyone. Moon. Does the moon even have water on it? It probably doesn't. No. So it knows nothing about water. It's probably just controlling our water as an experiment. Someone on the moon thousands of years ago probably went, oh look, that little planet over there has water on it. Maybe that would be useful if we want to go to Earth one day and become water users. Let's experiment with the water for a while. We'll set up this thing where we make the seas move around a bit every 6 hours. Slosh it around a bit and see what happens. Does it spill out over the land and then just disperse and go away and then they run out of water? Of course, they're probably going to wonder. They're developing science down there on Earth. They're learning stuff. They're starting to put 2 and 2 together and figure out how the solar system works. So they're going to realise one day that the moon is causing that. And then they're going to come up here and investigate. And we're all just going to hide then, though. We'll just hide. That's what we'll do. We'll hide. We'll go underground. And then we'll watch them from underneath. We'll say, oh, look, they're landing on the moon. That's one small step for man. One giant leap for mankind. Well done, mankind. That's a fantastic achievement. You put your foot on the ground on the moon. That's great. Absolutely. I don't know why I'm saying it all sarcastically like that. It is quite an achievement. It is quite an achievement.
Are you going into your head?
We've a lot to get on with today. Items that need to be attended to. Issues that need to be addressed. Topics. Oh, topics. We're positively booming to the seams with topics. We've got topics coming out of... topics coming out of my right arm. My right arm is right in front of me here. Weirdly, I'm holding something and I have to put the something down so I can look at my arm. My right arm, it's not much to write home about. It's the one without the tattoo. I have one bare forearm left and this is it. This is the one. Now, if I look at my other arm, that's not bare. There's a huge fucking tattoo on it. It makes it easier to see. So I can see my left forearm is there a lot easier than I can see that my right forearm is there. My right forearm kind of blends into the background, especially in this room where there's a kind of a light brown floor covering and there's a kind of a light brown table thing and there's a kind of a light brown air caused by, I don't know, the way the curtains are closed and the sun is sort of half shining in and there is there's a general not very organised air to the light in this room. I suppose that's what you'd say if you were here. And then I'd say, what in the name of Christ are you doing in our spare room? You didn't even come to the front door. You just managed to get in here. How did you get in, for one thing, because the window's not open? The only way I can think of is if you came in through my and my wife's bedroom, which happens to have the window open to let the cats out. So if you came in through there, you'd have had to come into the hall, then down the hall, and then into this room. What in the name of Christ? You didn't think to make yourself known. That's not on. No. Just no. No, 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 no. 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 Oh, now that's interesting. No. No. When I'm saying no, sometimes I'm doing it while moving my head from top to bottom, and then other times I'm doing it while moving my head from left to right. And I think it's a bit like when I say once upon a time there was a dog, a dog, a dog, etc. And I happen to enjoy how that sounds and feels as I say it. When I'm doing the no thing, it actually feels like I'm blessing myself now, like we used to do as children. We were being brought up as Catholics. We used to bless ourselves. You'd go, in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost. You tap your forehead and then your chin and then your left shoulder and then your right shoulder. When I'm going, no, the first time I'm moving my head from the up position to the down position, and then the second time I'm moving my head from the left position to the right position. So I'm going, no. Maybe it doesn't make any difference to how you hear it, but I think it's a bit like that effect that you get from sirens as they go past. I think it's the doppelganger effect, something like that. And I'm going, no. And I'm getting somewhat of a doppelganger effect in my headphones, and that's great. That's a new thing now that I get to enjoy. Another fun part of this pastime of mine that I get to enjoy now. I'm going to be doing that a lot more, I think. Going, no. That's great, that is. Anyway, this dog, he was walking along, minding his own business. Where did I say he was walking? Or was that a separate segment? Oh yes, the railway line. He was walking along the railway line, minding his own business, thinking, oh, these tracks are going to get me somewhere because they're parallel, so they're not going to move closer together or further apart. They're going to just lead me somewhere. And both of them are going to lead me to the same place. That's very reassuring for someone with 4 legs. That's very reassuring because I worry. I worry sometimes. It's very hard to think consciously about what you're doing with your legs when you have 4 of them. And I feel like it would be easy to stray off path and have some of my legs go the wrong way, especially when you're thinking too much about it. It's a bit like breathing. If you start thinking about inhaling and exhaling, you start to think, oh Christ, there's a lot of work involved in this breathing thing. I don't think I can do this for the rest of my life. And then eventually, of course, you forget and you go back to doing it subconsciously, and it's absolutely fine. But while you're doing it, while you're thinking about breathing, especially when you're talking at the same time as I'm doing now, or if you're the dog, you're walking along the railway line at the same time, it seems to become a very challenging task. You may feel like this is the only thing you can do for the rest of your life because you can't multitask while you're doing this. You think, oh Christ, I'm going to have to concentrate on inhaling and exhaling forever and ever and ever. And if I stop, I die. And if I stop and I die from not concentrating on my breathing, I'm going to look like a fucking idiot. It's going to be on my tombstone. It'll say, here lies a fucking idiot who had one job and that was to breathe. And he couldn't do that. Even we took away all of his other responsibilities. We say you can see you're challenged. We can see you're challenged in many ways. So we're going to take all of your responsibilities off you except this one thing, breathing. Because it's not like you have polio or something. We're not going to put you in an iron lung just because you don't like thinking about breathing. And of course, you'll probably say to that, you'll say, that's a bit of an overreaction. And I'd say to that, yes it is. Yes, it is a bit of an overreaction. But if you think that's an overreaction, how about if I just start going, no. Of course, the beauty of that is if I go, no, a lot, that has room for expansion in it. If I want to build up the pressure a bit, I can extend it and go, no. It gives a bigger emphasis. It's like having an extra word in your vocabulary at your disposal. I can go, no, or I can go, no. And it's the same word, but it's used in 2 different ways. The first one sounds pretty strong when I go, no. But then if it's not getting the attention I require, I can build upon it. I can go, no, 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 no. And people go, oh, he means business now. He's moved on from going no to going no. Yeah, I think his answer is no. That's what I think it is. I think his answer is no. You better listen to that. Now, if it turns out that no still isn't enough, I'm not sure where I can go from there. I'm not sure where I can go from there. Is there other words I can use? Can I go negative? Negative. Negative. I don't like to use that. That's a very negative type of language to be using. And I know the word no itself is negative. But to be saying negative, for one thing, it makes me sound like I'm in the military or something, and I'm not in the military. I haven't been in the military since I was 6.5 years old. We moved house, and when we moved house to another part of the country, I had to leave the Beaver Scouts. That was the end of my military career. I had learned how to tie a knot, I think possibly, and I'd learned how to put a 10 pence coin under a piece of paper and make a pencil rubbing of it by basically just scribbling all over the page. And you make an impression of the 10p and a picture of a salmon and the round, rough rim of the coin. And then you do the other side of the coin. You get a picture of a harp, and the year is usually somewhere between 1960 and 1982 at the time. If you got one of the newer coins, it would say 1982. Those were the newest coins available at that time when I was 6.5. And then the older ones, of course, they didn't even say 10p on it. They said fluorine, which apparently meant 2 shillings, which was translated into 10 pence later on. And they decided, oh, we're switching over to decimalisation now. So the 2 shilling coin will be treated as a 10 pence coin, even if we haven't changed it yet. That one says a shilling on it, but it's actually 5 pence. Now, it's very simple. My father used to explain this to me a lot. 12 old pennies translated into 5 new pennies, and 12 old pennies happened to be a shilling, which meant the new 5 pence coin was the equivalent of the old shilling coin. And then there was 273 shillings in a £10 note, something like that. We got used to it. Well, I didn't have to get used to it. This was all done before I was born. It was just that there were still old coins circulating. Is any of this interesting? No, it isn't. No. No. No, it isn't. Are you sure it's not interesting? No. No. So you're not sure. Well, then why did you go no? No. So when you're only going no initially, what changed in those few seconds to switch you from going no to no? And of course you'll say to that, you'll say, I didn't say anything. You're talking to yourself, you moron. I suppose you're right. Today's episode of Into Your Head podcast, hello, appears to be coming to its natural conclusion. And the reason I can tell that is because my beverage container here is empty. And usually that wouldn't be a big deal. I just carry on. Well, as you may have noticed today, you won't have noticed because I edit out my coughs, but I've been coughing today. I've been keeping myself lubricated because of that. Don't worry, I'm not dying of a cough or anything. But the beverage container is empty. Usually that wouldn't be a problem, but it is today because I need to go and get some more beverage. I'm not going to leave this room, get the cat's hopes up that they're allowed back in this room now that's being shut off for an hour, just to go and fill up my beverage container and come back in here and do another half hour. No, that'll be a bit. That's not how I do things. Now, there may be a way you can get around these things. There's shampoos now, mainly marketed at men. The branding looks like something you'd expect on a Monster energy drink. And they say, this shampoo is full of caffeine. Wash your hair with this and you'll be up all night. Well, surely they can do that with things to keep you hydrated. Surely there's a hydrating cream that you just rub on your chest and it keeps you hydrated all day regardless of whether you drink anything. Surely that's possible. We have outlets all over our body called pores and tear ducts and sweat pores, and they're able to let out liquid all day in a similar fashion to what comes out of your mouth and elsewhere. Surely if we can have outlets all over our body, we can have inlets as well. Somewhere where they can soak in hydration from a handy lubricating gel or cream that you spread on your chest or something. Surely that's not too much to hope for. And keep you hydrated for long enough to do a podcast without having to obsess over whether the dregs of the bottle of caffeine-free Coca-Cola Zero has run out. In fact, today, it wasn't even my usual thing where I get a nearly empty bottle of caffeine-free Coca-Cola Zero and bring it in here and finish it while I'm doing the podcast so that I can put the empty container in the empty bottle receptacle on my way out of the room for convenience. No, today I went out of my way. I found this old cold beverage flask thing and I filled it up. There may be 750 mils of liquid in it. I've drunk all that. My throat is not remaining lubricated. Now, I know what you're thinking. A normal person would just get up and go out and get more liquid and come back in. But no, I don't want to get the cat's hopes up. This is the spare room. They're used to having the freedom of this room, and when I come in here and shut them out for an hour or two, they become very disappointed and frustrated. And if I get up now and go out to fill up this container, they're going to think, oh, we can go back in. They'll get all excited, and I'll have to go out the door and close it behind me so they don't go in. And then go and fill up this container here, and then maybe get distracted by going and having a piss. Even though I'm not lubricated, I'm still probably going to need a piss. And then I'll come back in here and have to start all this over again. No, that's not how I do things. Maybe that's how other people do things. That's not how I do things. No. I start and then I finish and then I get out of here. That's how I know that this program is coming to its natural conclusion for the day. This is the end of the program. Goodbye. No, I don't like that. I don't like this. This is the end of the program. Goodbye. That's no kind of an ending at all. No. Let's see, what will I do? Will I do two cats walk into a bar? Yeah, we'll do that. Let's try that. Two cats walk into a bar. One of the cats goes straight up to the bar counter and says, hello, can I have a pint of your finest caffeine shampoo, please? And the man behind the bar says, oh, Christ, no. Christ, no, I'm not having that in here. No. And the cat says, I heard you the first time. And the barman says, are you sure? And the cat says, no. And the barman says, well, just check if you're recording. And the cat says, shut up. Are you thirsty? And the cat says, yes, I am thirsty, obviously. And the barman says, oh, well, then I don't recommend drinking anything alcoholic. That'll dehydrate you further. Have a nice bottle of water here. And the cat says, will you please fuck off? And the barman says, please don't speak to me in that fashion. Either purr at me or say nothing. And the cat says, I don't purr. Do I sound like I'm about to purr? And the man behind the bar says, no, you don't. That's why I'm telling you to please purr. And the cat says, I don't purr. Do I sound like I'm about to purr? And the man behind the bar says, no, you don't. That's why I'm telling you to please purr. If you looked like you were about to purr, I wouldn't need to say anything. I would have just gone, oh, okay, he's about to purr. I can just sit here and enjoy it and soak it in. Nothing better than listening to a cat purring. I'm going to enjoy the anticipation and just sit here and let it soak in. A nice relaxing sound of a cat purring. It's very good for you. It syncs with your probably syncs with your metabolism, heartbeat or something, and it probably adds years to your life. And the cat says, how many years do you think it'll add to my life? And the barman says, no, I mean my life. And the cat says, oh, I see. Well, that seems a bit selfish. And the barman says, well, it's not like it's going to take years off your life. Although now that I think about it, if you ever touch a cat's chest while they're purring, you'll notice there's a lot of vibration going on there. It's a bit like a fast heartbeat. So when they're purring, they're probably using up whatever number of heartbeats they have in their life. So it's probably draining away their life force faster than if they weren't purring. It's like if you're one of those insects who lives for a day and a half. They have a very, very, very fast metabolism. So they have the same number of heartbeats in their life as you have in your 78-year life. So, yes, now that I think about it, there is an argument that maybe causing a cat to purr or expecting it to purr is shortening its life. What's increasing its quality of life? Isn't that true, cat? And the cat says, "Excuse me, barman. Next time you go down to the court to get your bar license extension, I'm going to be there and I'm going to explain to him where you get your kicks. From shortening cats' lives, your customers' lives, your animal customers' lives, and not just any old animal. A talking cat, a unique humanoid talking cat who comes in here every day. A good customer of yours who comes in here, gives you all sorts of entertainment and conversation and stimulation, even contributes to your podcast, and you're just getting a kick out of doing something that may well shorten my life. I'm going to tell them that and see what happens." And the barman says, "You tell them that, you tell them that. They don't mind. They're licensing me to sell this stuff that kills people. So why would they care about that? They're purring. No. That's like saying I'm shortening people's lives by having them come to the bar every night, which increase their opportunities of getting run over. No, that's not how that works." And the cat says that should be how it works. Please fix it in time for the next program.